It's almost time to say goodbye to the year 2024, but we are not saying goodbye to some of the movies of 2024 as of yet. In this video, we will be counting down our picks of the 7 best epic movies of 2024. Now, some of these movies are epic in just the nature of the movie, the grand scale of the movie, whereas some of these movies are epic in the way of storytelling. At number 7, we have a movie called as Twisters. Now, Twisters is a movie which is a spiritual sequel to the 1996 movie which was also called as Twisters. And just like that movie, this movie also focuses on people who chase tornadoes. Yeah, and therefore, obviously, this movie is made on a grand scale. But the highlight of this movie, for me at least, was the relationship of Daisy Edgar Jones's character and Glenn Powell's character. Now, these two are paired together and they are as charming as any couple could get. Extreme charm in one frame. They have some great back and forth with each other, great dialogue writing, very charming on screen, and of course, the tornado sequences are dreadful. Whenever you see the tornado creating havoc in the city, you feel for the people, you feel for the characters, and that's exactly what the movie set out to do. If you haven't seen Twisters yet, do watch it. At number 6, we have Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. Now, like all the Godzilla movies, this movie is also mounted on a grand scale in which we see a giant lizard fighting a giant ape. And who doesn't want to see that? But there's a twist. This time, this giant ape and this giant lizard actually show bromance with each other. So we obviously get some mindless action, some cliched sci-fi tropes, but what does this movie provide is entertainment. Absolute entertainment. The pleasure of watching a giant ape and a giant lizard on screen together is just unmatched in this world of Godzilla or Gojira. This is actually the 4th movie in the Monsterverse franchise, and if you have seen all the other Godzilla and Kong movies, this movie will hit you even harder given the fact that you know the history of these characters. Movie number 3 is Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, this is another movie which we can call as the summer blockbuster. This movie was just grand in terms of the sheer people that it brought in to make this movie. Deadpool and Wolverine is, I think, the 2nd highest grossing movie of this year, and it is the highest grossing movie which is R-rated of all time. You have jokes, you have Hugh Jackman, you have Ryan Reynolds just showing the peak of his powers, not just as an actor but also as a writer. Now we move on to some serious movies, and at number 4 we have Gladiator 2. Now, anyone who have seen Gladiator 1 know how epic that movie was, and it is one of the most legendary movies of all time, and to make a sequel to that movie was a daunting task in itself. But this movie does a very sincere and a very honest job of carrying on the legacy of the first movie, carrying on the legacy of one of the main characters of the first movie, Maximus. This movie in no way does injustice to the first movie. In fact, it does more justice to the legacy of the first movie. And if you haven't seen the first movie, absolutely watch it and then jump onto the second movie. It's another great piece of cinema where you have action, philosophies, great character arcs, and basically a very good piece of cinema. At number 3, we have Furiosa: A Mad Max Saga. This is the sequel of the 2018 movie called as Mad Max, and this movie actually dives deep into the character of Furiosa and shows her entire life journey, and it is basically a revenge drama movie. It is a revenge story, and Chris Hemsworth is unrecognizable in this movie, and it does a very good job. But Anya Taylor-Joy really deserves appreciation for this movie as well. Now comes the interesting part, movie number 2. At number 2, we have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes, the original Planet of the Apes trilogy, is by far one of the best trilogies ever made, and to make a 4th movie to that trilogy was a very difficult task, and I can say proudly that they did a fantastic job in this movie. Again, as the Gladiator movie, this movie also honors the legacy of the original material. It also honors how great the first 3 movies were of this franchise. And there are some movies which just feels like a huge journey, like from the start of the movie to the end of the movie, it feels like we are going into a journey, and this movie definitely feels like that, and it really is a good piece of cinema. If you haven't seen any of the Planet of the Apes franchise, dude, you are missing out. You are highly missing out. Please watch the original trilogy of the Planet of the Apes and then get into this movie. It will be a great journey for you. Number 1 is the place reserved for Dune Part 2. Dune Part 2 might well be my pick for the best movie of this year, and I'm sure that it will get a lot of Oscar nominations at least, if not wins. But Dune Part 2 is the continuation of the first Dune movie. Dune Part 1 was definitely an incomplete movie because it was going to be completed in this movie, Dune Part 2. And Dune Part 2 really excels on everything. Whatever we were promised in the first movie, Denis Villeneuve really delivers on those expectations. And Timothée Chalamet, one of the performances of the year. There was a scene in this movie which will really stay very close to my heart because just the sheer impact of that scene was breathtaking. I would highly recommend you to watch Dune Part 2, and if you haven't seen the first Dune movie, of course I will recommend you to watch the first Dune movie as well. Yeah, the movies are slow, yeah, they take a little bit of time to get going, but if you get immersed in the story, there's no looking back, there's no going back. So these were my 7 movies of the year which were epic in nature. Now it's time to share your list of the 7 movies or any number of movies which you thought were epic in nature. Do tell me in the comments, and yeah, please subscribe the channel to get more content like this. And yeah, watch cinema, be happy, and as always, thank you so much for watching.